Okay, so this is the one question that we had on the Chapter 11 application worksheet running through this example. Let's start off by reading the question. Suppose there are 25 students in your math class. You just learned some juicy gossip about Mr. Mays and you are dying to tell someone. For purposes of this model, suppose that during a given time increment, let's say 2 minutes, you randomly select one person in the class to whom you will whisper the rumor. Then during the next time increment, the two of you who know the rumor each randomly selects someone in the class to whom you will whisper the rumor. Then each of the four of you who know the rumor randomly selects yet another person to tell, and so on and so forth. But we adopt the rule that if someone is selected to hear the rumor who has already heard it, that branch of the rumor spreading stops because nobody likes to hear stale gossip. So the key to this whole thing is that it says that you will randomly, let me choose a different color, randomly select one person. And then also as you spread the rumor even further, you will randomly select other people. So that's a key in a simulation, is that you have to make sure that you select things at random. So let's take a look at the different parts that the different parts of this question that we need to answer. The first thing that we are asked to do is identify the component to be repeated. So the component is the thing that is going to be repeated over and over again. So a generic way to describe a component is to say that it's one random event. So in this particular case, what is that one random event? In this case, the component is randomly selecting a student to pass the rumor on to. So that's the component that we're going to be repeating over and over and over again. All right, the next part of the problem is asking us to explain how you will model the outcome. So another way to say this is we are going to just assign our numbers. How do we want to assign the digits? That's what we're doing in this particular case. So here's how I'm going to assign the digits. I'm going to let 01, 02, 03, 04, all the way up to 25 represent the 25 distinct students in the class. Now, because I say distinct students, we are not looking for repeats. So that's what we have to be careful of. And we'll talk about why we want to stop when we get a repeat here in the next question. But the other thing that I need to make sure of is that I ignore 00 because there's only 25 students in the class, and I also want to ignore 26 through 99 because those would not be students in the class. Now, one of the things that we are assuming here is that you are one of these students. Now, we don't know which number you are, but you're the one who's starting the rumor, or you're the one who started with the rumor, and you are going to start this string of numbers. So for our purposes, we really would want to define this a little bit further, but for right now, this is good enough for the example that we want to do. Now we want to explain how we are going to simulate the trial. Well, in order to simulate the trial, we have to know what a trial is. Well, in this particular case, a trial is going to continue until the rumor has been heard by a second student. So that's how we are explaining how we're going to simulate the trial. You have to know when a trial will end. That's what we're looking at when we're asked to explain how we would simulate a trial. So this is what it would look like. Each trial will continue until every student knows the rumor or until one of the randomly selected students is chosen to hear the rumor a second time. So this is what each trial will look like. Each trial will continue until every student knows the rumor. We would stop because there's nobody else to give it to, or until one of the randomly selected students is chosen to hear the rumor a second time because they don't want to hear stale gossip. So now we want to clearly state what the response variable is. It's important to know what is the response variable. What is the thing that you are going to record? That's what the response variable is. If you don't know what the response variable is, then you don't know what data you are collecting. So this actually is the data that is being collected. All right, let's take a look at this. Now, one of the things that I want to point out is that the response variable is not stated very well in the original problem. In fact, it's really not stated at all. Usually when you read your problem, down here will be some kind of question at the bottom where you'll be able to tell exactly what the question is or the response variable that you're looking for. In this case, it's not there, so we kind of have to assume what it is. What we're going to assume is that it is this, the number of students that will hear the rumor before it stops. So this is what we are going to record every time we run a trial. So going back up here, every time we run a trial, we are going to record the number of students that will hear the rumor before it stops. That is our response variable. Okay, now it's time to run several trials. Now I'm going to run through the first trial with you and show you how I would mark up this particular random number table, and I'll mark over on the side, record my findings over on the side. And after I run one trial, I'll probably run a second one with you, and then I'm just going to show you the results of my last 3 trials. I'll run 5 altogether. So as we start here, I'm going to start on the top left. 73 is not a student, so I'm going to ignore it. 73 again, not a student, ignore it. 54 is not a student, I'm going to ignore that. 59, not a student, ignore. 63, ignore. 78, ignore. 13, finally we get to a student that we can use. So this right here is trial 1. And the first student that I have is number 13. Let's continue. 46, ignored. 38, ignored. 73, ignored. 02, so there we go. There's my second student. 02, well, let's make that look like a 2. 96, ignore. 55, ignore. 83, ignore. Oh, here's another one, 03. So student 03. 90, ignore. 70, ignore. 82, ignore. 00, ignore. 25, there is my next student that hears the rumor. 98, ignore. 85, ignore. 92, ignore. 38, ignore. 51, ignore. 27, ignore. 96, ignore. 56, ignore. And then 23. So 23 is my next student. Let's continue. 94, ignore. 33, ignore. 66, ignore. 66, ignore. Oh, here we go, 25. But wait a second, I've already got number 25 right here. So there's a 25 and there's a 25. So now my rumor string has ended. So what is my response variable? Well, we said before that the response variable is the number of students that hear the rumor before it stops. So here we go. Let's take a look at the response variable. Well, the number of students would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, and 6. So right there is my response variable. Okay, 6. Now, in this particular case, you may say, but wait a second, 6 isn't your response variable because I was the one who started the rumor, so shouldn't it be 7? Well, we don't want to count number 25 twice, so if you started the rumor, you're number 1, and then 13 is number 2, 02 is number 3, 03 is number 4, 25 is number 5, 23 is number 6, then we get back to 25 and we stop. So including yourself, there are 6 people in this particular trial that have heard the rumor before it stops. I'm going to go ahead and run another trial right now so you can see it again. All right, here we go. So I'm going to start right where I left off. 70, ignore. 64, ignore. 77, ignore. 57, ignore. 84, ignore. 28, ignore. 81, ignore. 66, ignore. 62, ignore. 64, ignore. 40, 20. There's my first student. 42, and then 20 again. I mean, back to back, I'm getting 20. So I'm going to stop right there. So in this particular trial, I only have 2 people. That's my response variable right there. 2 people that learned about the rumor. U and number 20. Now I'm going to continue and run 3 more trials. I'm going to put the results of those trials on the screen here, but you're going to see it all pop up at the same time. All right, so here's my other 3 trials. Now, if you want to run through and look at the number table and kind of visualize it yourself, you'll see that these are the numbers that I come up with. So in trial 3, I ended up with a response variable of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then in trial 4, I ended up with a response variable of 4. And in trial 5, I ended up with a response variable of 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can see them there. So there are my 5 trials. So my 5 trials were 6, 2, 6, 4, and 7. Now I could continue this. In fact, when you do a simulation, it's good to do multiple trials. But in this case, we're just going to do 5. Well, what do we do after that? Well, the next thing that we do is we analyze the response variable. The most logical way to analyze the response variable in this particular case is to find the mean or the average number of students that hear the rumor. So our response variable was the number of students right here, but to analyze it, we're going to find the mean number of students. And in this case, we're just going to add up all the numbers and divide by the total amount. That's what the mean is. So in this case, we had 6 plus 2 plus 6 plus 4 plus 7. And we had 5 trials altogether, so we're going to divide that by 5. This ends up being 25 divided by 5, which is 5. Now, we don't want to just stop with 5. What we really want to do is we want to write our conclusion. So that's why number 7 says, state your conclusion in context. That's one of the things in stats that you've got to make sure that you do, is getting the number is good, but getting the number is only part of your answer. You always need to write your conclusion in complete sentences, and you always need to write in context. You're going to hear me talk about that a lot throughout the year. Context, context, context. If you don't write your answers or your conclusions in context, you're really not going to be correct, and you're not going to be able to get full credit on the AP test. All right, so here is our conclusion. Based on this simulation, now that little phrase right there is important because we are running a simulation. We want to say, based on this simulation. If we were doing something different, if we were running a hypothesis test, we would say, based on this test. Or if we were collecting a sample and we were using the sample, we would say, based on this sample. But in this case, we are running a simulation. So based on this simulation, the mean number of students that would hear the rumor about Mr. Mays is 5. Now, it turned out to be exactly 5. If this would have been like 5.25, you would want to leave your answer as a decimal. Because since we're looking at mean, it's okay to leave your answer in decimal form. So in this case, it was exactly 5. So we can just leave it as exactly 5. All right, finally, for this particular worksheet, what we want to do is identify each of the following from the rumors simulation. So we want to go back and review what was the response variable, what's the simulation component, what's the outcome, and what's the trial. So let's do that quickly. Let's start with the response variable, which would be the number of students that hear the rumor before the string ends. Now the simulation component. Well, a component is one random event. So in this case, the simulation component would be randomly selecting a student to pass the rumor on to. All right, what about the outcome? Well, the outcome is the result of each component. So in this case, the outcome would be a new student hears the rumor, or the selected student has already heard the rumor. And then finally, what is each trial going to look like? For this example, a trial will continue until the rumor string ends. And there's 2 different ways that happens. Either everybody hears the rumor, or you randomly select a student that has already heard the rumor. Well, I hope this helps, and have fun in your stats class.